Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back to the show. It's great to have you here today on this Total Wellness Tuesday episode of the Cabral Concept. Really appreciate you being here with me today, as always. And I'm looking forward to getting into today's topic, which is the miracle of serrapeptase. So one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this episode to you today is the more research that I do on serrapeptase, the more I am convinced that people need to know about this and practitioners need to be using it more in their practice. I'm going to give you all of the reasons why I feel so strongly about that. Besides just the clinical benefits that I've seen in my practice, the research is really becoming undeniable. So once there's a nutrient that we know works, and it can work, it can help so many people for so many different varied issues, I want to make sure that you know about it. It doesn't mean that you need to go out and start using it right away. That's not what that means at all. But maybe you know someone in your life, a parent, a grandparent, a loved one, maybe a coworker that is dealing with the issues that I'm about to explain to you right now. If they're dealing with these things, yes, there has to be a multi-pronged approach. You can't just use this enzyme, okay? This is a proteolytic enzyme. I'm going to tell you exactly what it does, and it's fantastic. But there's probably a reason why the body has also become imbalanced, right? Because the body's not, it wasn't just saying, oh, we're missing serrapeptase. That's not the case. However, serrapeptase can help with a lot of the damage that may already be done while working on the underlying root causes and getting yourself into a better diet and de-stress protocol, right? So that's a big part of it. Yes, you need to use the de-stress protocol. If you don't know what the de-stress protocol is, I write about it in my book, The Rain Barrel Effect. That book is almost free. I mean, it's literally my life's work, almost free. You can get it at eco.life or on Amazon. And all profits go to charity. But it explains to you the diet, the exercise, the stress reduction, the toxin removal, the rest, the emotional balance, the scientific supplement protocols, and the success mindset that people need in order to truly rebalance the body. But what if there was something that symptomatically, so in the beginning, could relieve a lot of the issues that people might be dealing with? Well, serrapeptase is one of those, I would say, one of those nutritional supplements that we need to be looking more at. Let me just give you a little taste right now of it. I'm going to dedicate the show to it. So let me give you just a little bit of a taste of it. It's looked at as one of the strongest natural painkillers and anti-inflammatory aids for people dealing with back issues, joint pain, arthritis, fibromyalgia, carpal tunnel, sinusitis, headaches, toothaches, and dealing with specific autoimmune issues as well. Let me just give you a couple more. It helps with inflammation and lung-based issues. Do you believe that right now, hopefully you're tuning into tomorrow's show. I'll be talking about this tomorrow with the post-viral syndrome inflammatory issues. So definitely check out that show. But one of the issues is mucus, and it's lung-based issues. It's people with COPD, which is typically from smoking, but there are other cases of it as well. Chronic bronchitis, asthma, emphysema, pulmonary hypertension, coughs. I talked about sinuses before, ear, nose, and throat issues, difficulty breathing, overproduction of mucus. Okay, there's a whole nother category though as well, and that is one of the areas where serrapeptase shines because it helps to break down dead tissue, diseased tissue, and proteins in the bloodstream. But let's look at this. People with gallbladder stones, right? So gallstones, people with post-surgical scar tissue, people with, or women with blocked fallopian tubes, women with fibrocystic breasts, women with PCOS, dealing with ovarian cysts or endometriosis, endometritis. So when we look at these things, those are specific conditions as well. But there's even more. And again, this is all based on clinical research, okay? Clinical research. And it was just like when I was reading it and then I was reading more and I was reading more. I mean, I'd spend hours down a rabbit hole on all of the research. I'm going to link it up for you here today as well. You can head over to stephencabral.com/1775 for today's show notes. Okay. Just a couple more categories. All right, this is a big one. How many people do we know suffering from blocked arteries or heart-based issues? We'll put it that way. Hypertension. They're dealing with maybe overall clotting in the blood and varicose veins. When we look at any hardening of the arteries, Serrapeptase may be able to help with that, breaking down fibrin in the bloodstream. When I did a lot of electron microscopy in my practice for about 8 years. So when I would see people, they would come in for their initial consultation. I would always look at their blood under the microscope. And I would do that from a live blood examination. I would do that from a dried blood. Once the blood had dried, about 10 minutes or so later, I could take a look at it. So from a live blood exam under the microscope, and I'm looking at this at 10,000, 100,000 magnification, we're actually able to see fibrinogen or fibrin building up in the blood. And you could actually see the red blood cells not move as well. Well, we know that enzymes, proteolytic enzymes, can help with this. Now, should it be the only thing we do? No, but it's a great start. It really is. And the last thing we're looking at for Serrapeptase benefits are killing pathogenic bacteria. And I'm going to tell you exactly how I use it. So in our practice, one of the ways the CBO protocol is so successful at helping to rebalance the gut is whether someone's dealing with parasites or candida overgrowth or bacterial overgrowth, you need to remove the biofilm that's covering it. So that's one of the reasons why, again, it's been so successful. And I try to teach this every single day instead of in terms of our IHP and with the protocol, is that we dissolve that biofilm, and we do it naturally through enzymes. Now, once the biofilm has been dissolved, we are then able to access those pathogens, those gut bugs as they're referred to. So that means that we can use natural antimicrobials, all herbal-based, not all herbal, I should say things like crippleic acid that comes from coconut oil, are able to then break down the outer layers of those gut bugs and be able to kill them and harmlessly remove them from the body. And that's then when we begin to repopulate. So again, it's all science-based, it's highly effective, and we've been using it for years, and we also have thousands of practitioners using that CBO protocol as well. So Serrapeptase, though, is part of that, right? That's part of that, we call it fluorofilm, part of that enzyme biofilm disruptor. So I shared with you a little bit about what it's good for. I want to share with you why it works. So it's pretty amazing. I believe it was in the 1960s. I don't have that directly in front of me, but I believe it was able to be isolated and found in the 1960s, believe it or not, from a silkworm. So it's a specific bacteria that a silkworm makes or has that is able to dissolve the cocoon of a silkworm that then allows it to turn into a moth, right? So as the cocoon breaks down from that silkworm, it becomes a moth. So what they looked at is how are they able to dissolve that cocoon? Well, it's from this specific Serrapeptase, and the other name for it is called Serrapeptase, I believe. Serrapeptase, so sometimes you'll see that as well, spelt a little bit differently, but looks pretty close to Serrapeptase. Okay, pretty much one and the same, interchangeable names. We'll talk about dosages towards the end of the show. Okay, so we know that that's specifically where it comes from. So is it vegan? It is not, right? It is not. I'll give you, though, some vegan-based varieties that are going to help you, not to the same degree, but you're still going to get a lot of benefits from them as well. Okay, so always something for everyone. There's no doubt about it. We can always, help people in all the different ways that we're able to. Okay, so it makes sense, though. We find that a silkworm is able to break down its cocoon naturally using a protein or proteolytic dissolving enzyme. So now what we've done is we say, okay, if it's able to dissolve that, what if we use it in humans? Well, they began to use it in humans. And what happened was it began to break down what? Fibrin protein formations in the blood that shouldn't be there. It seems to selectively break down proteins that shouldn't be there in the bloodstream. Now, how else does this happen? During autophagy. right? During our periods of fasting, which is why fasting is also so amazing with the body, because when the body is not getting enough food, enough nutrients, it says, how are we going to survive? And through all of its innate wisdom that we don't truly understand, we don't, right? As a doctor, any type of doctor, you need to be willing to say, we don't yet know how this works. But in the brilliance of how the human body was made, is that when you are lacking food, when you've gone a period of time without eating, your body says, okay, let's find nutrients. And yes, it will break down stored glycogen in your liver. Yes, it will, find other ways. But here's what else happens. It actually scavenges proteins in your bloodstream and dead tissue or necrotic tissue, bacteria and viruses. I mean, that's pretty amazing. It begins to break those down first, sometimes even cancer cells. And it uses that as fuel. And it also uses it as a time for the white blood cells to do their job to clean up the things that shouldn't be there, because, especially if you have intestinal permeability, there's no more protein spilling in the bloodstream. That is why a period of fasting is so important for overall health and longevity. Do people take it overboard? Absolutely, but that's the Western-based mindset, right? If a little is good, well, let me just go almost all day without eating and just eat once a day. Is that okay for a couple days or in the short term, a couple weeks? Sure. But for a lifetime or even a couple months, not a good idea. Your body will compensate. Yes, your body is the master compensator. There's my Boston accent coming out. But what happens is things do falter over time. So the great thing is, though, you can still get the benefits of fasting, doing it normally, 12 hours, 14 hours a day, 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. is the Ayurvedic way. It's the simplest way to do it. It's the cleanest way to do it. Can you take that a little longer? Sure, you can go 6 p.m. to 10 a.m. That would be totally fine. You can still get in 3 meals a day, as I've talked about before on previous shows on autophagy and fasting. If you haven't heard those before, just go to stephencabral.com/podcasts. Scroll through the little graphics at the top, whether you're on your phone or on desktop, and you'll actually see all of my shows dedicated to fasting. I give you an unbiased look at how long you should be fasting, who should be fasting for how long, should you skip breakfast, who it's dangerous for, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so one of my, besides going in and cleaning up the body, one of my favorite ways to look at this is by essentially unclogging the arteries. If you unclog the arteries, you could help with cardiovascular issues, blood pressure issues, which again are the top 2 killers in the United States, leading to heart attacks and stroke, may also help with the brain. So I mean, that's very, very important. The carotid artery leads up to that cerebrovascular area. And I would say too, a big part of this with varicose veins and poor circulation. So that's one of my favorite uses for that. I have a health results accelerator coming out in about a month to 6 weeks on cardiovascular heart issues, and then followed up by one on blood pressure. And you'll see that it's not the only thing, but it's one of a handful of things that I use is Serrapeptase. So the other one that I like it for is for a lot of skin condition issues like a psoriasis, etc., where there's an overall inflammatory process going on in the body. Let me, before I give you the specific dosages, because I want to do that, I want you to understand that Serrapeptase is essentially an enzyme that helps to break down proteins, which leads to less inflammation in the body, which then leads to what? A lessening, a lowering of the rain barrel, right? You begin to empty your rain barrel. That's the truth. You begin to empty your rain barrel. Now, again, work on the underlying conditions on how you got there, right? I mean, you look at your diet, your exercise, your stress reduction, your toxin removal, look at all those, but it's okay to also use Serrapeptase if you're dealing with any of the issues that I just named before, because it does have those anti-inflammatory properties. I always have to give you that none of this is medical advice. It's not a treatment protocol. It's not a cure. It's not any of those things. Again, that FDA does not allow for that, so we are not telling you that. But what I am going to share with you is this, is that blood clots and all of these fibrocystic breasts, a lot of women that I see in my practice, are dealing with that, as well as PCOS. So this can be endometriosis, can be really, really helpful. And again, if you go back to stephencabral.com/podcast, and you even just type in fibrocystic, or you type in PCOS or any of these things, you've seen that I've been recommending Serrapeptase for years. This is nothing new, but I just never wanted to dedicate a show to it. But once I went down the rabbit hole in the research, it's like, how can I not? So I just want to share with you one research passage, and then I'm going to tell you exactly how to use this product if you feel it's right for you, or if you're an integrative health practitioner or functional medicine doctor, naturopathic doctor, how to use it in your practice. Okay. So this is taken, let's see where this is from. This is from the Asian Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences, all right? So this is something that they probably never publish in the US, even though it obviously is for people all around the world. But I'm going to give you the abstract here. Inflammation remains a key event during most of the diseases and physiological imbalances. Acute inflammation is an essential physiological event by immune system for a protective measure to remove cause of inflammation, and failure of resolution leads to chronic inflammation. Over a period of time, a number of drugs, mostly chemical, have been deployed to combat acute and chronic inflammation. Recently, enzyme-based anti-inflammatory drugs became popular over conventional chemical drugs. Serrapeptase, a proteolytic enzyme from trypsin family, possessed tremendous scope in combating inflammation. Serine protease possesses a higher affinity for COX-1 and COX-2 enzymes associated with inflammatory mediators, including interleukins, prostaglandins, thromboxane, etc. Currently, arthritis, sinusitis, bronchitis, fibrocystic breast disease, carpal tunnel syndrome, etc. are leading to inflammatory disorders that have infected the entire globe. In order to conquer inflammation, both acute and chronic world, physician mostly relies on conventional drugs. The most common drugs to combat acute inflammation are non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, which are NSAIDs, and or combination with other drugs. However, during chronic inflammation, NSAIDs are often used with steroidal drugs such as autoimmune disorders. These drugs possess several limitations such as side effects, ADR, etc. In order to overcome these limitations and complications, enzyme-based drugs, anti-inflammatories, have emerged and aim for a new high since the last decade. Serine protease, the largest proteolytic family, have reported several therapeutic applications, including anti-inflammatory. Serrapeptase, I told you that was another name for it, is a leading enzyme which has a very long history in medical as an effective anti-inflammatory drug. Current studies emphasize present scenarios and future aspects of Serrapeptase as an anti-inflammatory drug. I'll stop there. It goes on to show that it can actually be more effective for many of these conditions than something like an Advil or ibuprofen. So this is why, as a natural-based remedy, where the biggest side effect, and we do have to watch for this, is anybody on blood thinners or worried about blood thinning effects has to be careful with this. So again, there's always side effects to even natural things as well. So be careful. Always speak with your doctor, especially if you're going to use a higher dose. But I wanted to bring this to your attention. Okay, so now you know specifically what it is, how it's used. Here's where we can get it. So I've talked a little bit about bromelain and rutin and trypsin before. All right, these are natural enzymes found in certain foods. So let's say that you are someone that doesn't want to use any animal-based products and even extracts. I get it, totally understand. So you can find some of these things in pineapple. The core of the pineapple is going to contain bromelain. Kiwi is going to contain more of the proteolytic enzymes as well. Ginger, one of my favorites, right? So it won't happen until late 2021, but we are coming out with an anti-aging line at Equilife that will contain the trypsin, the bromelain, the ginger in part of our anti-inflammatory product. It will, without a doubt, be the most potent anti-inflammatory, natural anti-inflammatory to hit the market, but we take our time. This has already been in the works for about 12 months. It's going to take another 8 months of formulation to get it just right for us. We take our time. Average product that I have coming to market, 12 to 18 months. That's how long it took. Fatlocity, the world's very first 24-hour day and night fat burning formula, which again is based on science. 25 clinical studies, took 18 months. Like, it takes a long time, but I want it to be worth it. Like, I want it to work, and I go by the research, I go by what works. I have people using the products, and then I combine into one to make it easy. Anyway, we're looking at kiwi and ginger. Ginger is such an important one, right? So ginger is a great one to be using. Couple cups a day of ginger tea, or you can take it in capsules, would be fine. Okay, I'm gonna leave you with those. Now, how can you get the most benefit and use it exactly like it's shown in studies? Well, you want to get about 20,000 units per day, and you want to take it on an empty stomach. Here's exactly what I do. Again, it's not a treatment protocol, it's not medical advice, but in my practice, I have people take 2 capsules of Florafilm upon waking and 2 capsules of Florafilm before bed. That's all that they do, right? So that contains all sorts of enzymes, antifungals, antibacterials. It contains other cofactors as well, and it contains, of course, serrapeptase. So it's 10,000 units per 2 capsules. We use 4 a day. It's part of our CBO protocol. Many people know about it. So it's a great one. It's going to help with biofilms in the gut, and then if taken away from food, it'll move into the bloodstream as well. So that's 20,000 units per day. That's the typical dosage. Okay, that's just typical dosage. And again, you can use any brand in the world that you want, like literally any brand in the world that you want. That's not why I do the show. I do the show to bring you the research and evidence, tell you what I use in my private practice. If you want to use what we use in private practice, that's okay. It's yours to be able to open source, and it's at equi.life, EQUI.LIFE. Now, let's say that you are someone suffering from joint-based issues. I've been recommending this product for 8 years, maybe 10 years. I lose track of these things. Wobenzyme PS. Wobenzyme PS, okay? Typically, 2 to 4 capsules upon waking, 2 to 4 capsules before bed. Now remember, if you don't want to take them before bed because you're worried about drinking too much fluids before bed, you can do all 4 capsules in the morning, right? You can also, there's not really a limit. You can take as many really as you would like. And I can't give you the upper limit. I can't give you medical advice, so you'll have to use your best judgment or work with a qualified healthcare practitioner. Okay, there's another one though. You can find a serrapeptase or serratiopeptidase at 120,000 units. That's called the max dose. People do 1 or 2 dosages of that per day. That's obviously a lot. If you are someone dealing with any of the conditions that I spoke about earlier in the show, it's not my medical advice to be able to give you to tell you to do that. However, you may want to use 120,000 units, sometimes IUs, sometimes SFUs, in a product to get that big clinical dosage. How long, people then ask? Well, typically about 3 to 4 months. That would be the minimum. You can continue to take it for longer, 6 months or so. Okay, so now you know how to take it. Upon waking is the best time to take it, 30 minutes to an hour before food. That's the best time to take it. You can split it morning and before bed. That works as well. Again, like we do with the Florafilm. Can you use Florafilm and the 120,000 units of another product? Yes, you can. You can. I don't believe that I can link up any, I think I'm precluded from linking up any supplements in the show notes. So what you can do is you can go to stephencabral.com/resources, and you can see my supplement recommendations, and then you can click to a website that's a third-party website that I recommend, where you should be able to get the trusted brands that have been third-party tested. Okay, so there you have it. That is exactly how to get it from food, how to use it as a nutritional supplement, and who it may benefit for. As always, if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out, let me know. You can ask those at cabralsupportgroup.com. Feel free to write in for the Ask Cabral show on the weekends as well. So any of those I'm happy to help with. And of course, if this show is helpful, please do feel free to share it with anyone you believe it may serve. Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well finally is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests, or to set up a free lab selection call to find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. That's EQUI.LIFE/labs.